Are you, the viewer, a genuinely rational person, or are you just following the aesthetic of rationality? Think about that for a moment. Are you genuinely thinking critically when you're presented with new information, or are you just basing your belief or your thinking on a feeling or how something looks or how something sounds? Anyway, my name is Matea and I enjoy the art of thinking about thinking, especially related to topics such as the occult or parapsychology. And what I've noticed when talking to people about similar topics is that sometimes they don't think critically about information that is presented to them. They just assume that something is either real or not real based on the vibe or the aesthetic of it. An example of that would be someone that I know who believes in telepathy, precognition, telekinesis, any parapsychological phenomena, but they don't believe in magic. So when I confronted them about that and asked to elaborate, they just said, that's weird. It's ridiculous to believe in magic. That's a form of something that I like to call the aesthetic thinking rather than critical thinking. It can also be observed amongst the occultists that view themselves as serious occultists. Some of them would completely reject the idea of astrology just because of the astrology girl aesthetic surrounding it, but would accept anything related to, I don't know, Thelema or the Golden Dawn that has elements of astrology in it. This type of thinking I have observed mostly amongst the atheists, agnostics, the rational types, but it can also be observed amongst the people who call themselves spiritual but not religious, or even amongst religious people. And the reason why people tend to judge things based on the aesthetics rather than thinking critically is because it's easier. It's much easier to judge things if they have this scientific, sciencey, lab coat type of aesthetic behind them, rather than something that has crystal girl, astrology girl, woo-woo aesthetic to it. Instead of using logic to compare your experiences and your knowledge, it's much easier to go by the vibe of something. You don't have to do the hard work, you just have to appear rational to other people and identify as rational. This is why it's very difficult to have constructive conversations with those who attach themselves to the aesthetic of science or the aesthetic of reason or knowledge without being researchers or thinkers themselves. I'm not saying that I am a thinker or some really smart person. I just notice this in conversations with people that I know or on the internet or basically anywhere where I encountered this type of reasoning. And I'm not talking about this so me and you can have better arguments with people online or in person. It's just that you as a person and also me can think about how we understand reality, how we understand knowledge and information that comes to us. Most modern philosophers have noticed that there's a problem nowadays with over-focusing on rationality and ignoring emotions and intuition, which is a real problem, don't get me wrong. In the modern West, we are treating emotions as a glitch or as a mistake rather than something we evolved for a reason. And don't get me started on ignoring the whole intuition thing, how our society views it as something that either doesn't exist or is like a feature of the brain that sometimes gets things right but sometimes doesn't, rather than a clear, non-rational sense we have within us. Or even worse, mixing the feeling of anxiety or different other feelings with intuition, which is completely different from all those gut feelings we can have. And that's where the hyper-focus on rationality and evidence comes in. We need something to latch onto to feel that there's an ultimate objective reality out there, rather than something we project with our minds. I don't think humans can actually understand or perceive objective reality, and I don't think we should, but that's my personal opinion. And in this video I'm focusing more on the difference between thinking critically and just latching onto the aesthetic of rationality, which is the title of this video, And it's not the only form of lazy thinking out there. There are logical fallacies for a reason. There's a list of logical fallacies because people have observed them. Because the ways in which we understand knowledge and information and reality shapes how we perceive and experience the real world and our lives. And if that sounds too vague and too philosophical for you, think about all the times you had arguments with people that are really close to you in your life and how you processed information that they gave you. Not just information that they read on the news or, I don't know, something scientific or something about your particular religion or belief system. I'm talking about everyday situations where you're talking to someone about something that happened or they're explaining something that's going on in their life to you. How do you process it? How do you understand it? And how that translates to that relationship, how you maintain that relationship. It can also be said about your relationship with the world, with reality itself, how you process it, how you think about it, how you understand it shapes how you will live your life basically. And I keep yapping about the same things in my video because I believe it's important. That's why I'm going around the same topics even in my podcasts and in my videos. It's all about our perception of the world around us and how we experience life. So philosophy is not this bullshit thinking about thinking, writing gigantic books and selling them. It's about understanding and building wisdom, developing wisdom. And I think we should all be striving for that no matter what your or my belief system is or where we grew up, who raised us, how we were raised, what is our life situation. Wisdom is something that humans crave, something that humans need. And to get there, we need to let go of relying solely on aesthetics when it comes to our judgments, which is very different from our intuitions or learned knowledge we have about things. Sometimes people can develop these quick judgments about situations and others that end up being accurate, but it's not based on vague feelings or aesthetics, it's based on experience. And that experience and that knowing is very different from thinking that something just sounds stupid or it sounds woo-woo or it sounds irrational. And I personally believe that the biggest issue is in people's understanding or interpretation of scientific discoveries, because they will do these quick judgments based on how something sounds. If it sounds or feels rational, they think it's true. But it could be just some bullshit that some journalist wrote and has nothing to do with actual evidence. It could basically be just some random clickbait article that doesn't even talk about the topic they said they would talk about, or it could be an AI video that sounds very professional but it's a load of crap. Nothing of genuine scientific or archaeological or historical validity is said in the video, but it sounds really rational. It sounds very pretentious, so people believe it. That's a big problem in today's media and in the general public's understanding of basically everything. Name it science, religion, history of religion, history of the occult, I don't know, different philosophical systems. People have their ideas based on clickbait. But at the same time, they wouldn't look twice at an actual research paper studying something parapsychological because it sounds woo, it looks woo, it looks bullshit. But have you actually looked at the numbers? Have you actually read the study? Have you actually read the meta-analysis? Or even just watched an interview with the researchers and made your conclusions based on that? Of course, that's too much work. It's much easier to judge things based on how they look or how they sound, so you don't get scammed. Even though we can all easily get scammed by anything that hasn't to do anything with parapsychology or spirituality or religion, only if we rely on this aesthetic of rationality. I don't think that that type of thinking is a very useful tool for avoiding scammers or bamboozlers or any other type of bullshit. Critical thinking is hard and it requires a lot of processing, a lot of time, a lot of energy. It cannot be easily replaced by this vague feeling of something. And none of us are immune to biases. So, thank you guys for watching. I have podcasts, more of them now, hopefully. Sometimes I make videos, and stay tuned. Yay, bye.